Welcome again to the Evolution Security Podcast. It's that time again to hang out with the Tactical Twins. I'm glad to be here on another episode with my brother. I won't be here every time, but hey, I'm going to be here quite often, and this is one of those times. I'm excited about it. Eric, thanks for having me on, buddy.
Well, of course, man, it is certainly always fun, as we tell our audience quite often. But I also want to be respectful of your time and your family and, your particular efforts right now. So I won't try to bring you on or ask you to come on a whole lot, but it's always awesome to hang out with you, man, for certain. So how's your day been? How's your week been?
Bro, I am having a good week. I'm a little worn out today. I found out yesterday, I don't ever talk much about my accounting job. I never really need to. The cool thing is, man, my job is usually on a real even kill, but I just got handed a crap ton of work I need to get done by next Wednesday. So I'll be honest, I'm a little stressed out about it. But other than that, I'm doing good, man. Just, just having a good week. Other than that, really, I will say this: I've been beating my hands up a lot from playing guitar and dry firing. So, I bet you I loaded 1,000 rounds over the last couple of days on
Nice.
my Dylan press. So I figured out I really need to give my hands a break. Hey, dude, I haven't gone a full day without playing guitar, and dude, I don't know how long. So I didn't play this morning. I'm not playing tonight. I'm gonna at least take 2 full days off of playing, and then the rest of the week I'm gonna kind of keep it low key, and I'm probably not gonna dry fire for the week. So,
Well, that brings up a subject that we had talked about not too long ago, and that's these captains of crush. Essentially these wrist and forearm strength builder. And I have to give a shout out to Cecil. Of course, he was on just this last week, and you remember Cecil came on and like on the side, I think he texted us or emailed us because we were bragging on the captains of crush, and he came on and said, "Hey guys, don't forget your grip and geese, your weightlifting, your dry firing, you're doing all this stuff where your grip is getting all kinds of workout, and you're gonna overdo it." And I think when you're young, I think having that as a extra strengthening tool, I think is all right. But ever since he came back on and warned us, I don't use these anymore. But I guess I get plenty of grip from deadlift and chins though. So shout out to Cecil on that one.
I didn't intend to go off on this, but dude, every time I play, and of course I didn't have to when I was younger, but every time I play, I go through about 5 minutes of finger and light stretching exercises, and to warm up my wrists, and just multiple kind of wrist yoga things, because man, I don't want to make it to where I gotta take week-long breaks from playing guitar and dry firing that much. I mean, I'm only 52 here.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up. I used to do that a lot more before I played drums, but then I think I kind of used the excuse that I always warm up on a practice pad, but I honestly don't think that's enough. That's a good reminder, Aaron. I need to go back to doing a little bit of mobility work before.
Dude, I've been doing the same thing. When I dry fire, I'll warm up my hands before I even dry fire. I mean, because hell, dude, I'm using way more strength dry firing than I do playing guitar.
Mm,
But it's
yeah.
just that I can't remember what the name of the quote syndrome is, but my thumb, the the tendon in my thumb here, and I actually have a little bit of a joint issue right here where that joint pokes out a little bit, so it irritates the tendon there.
And that's your left hand?
Mm-hmm.
Bro, we're twins because I've been having some wonkiness with that thumb too.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh well, I mean, there's a lot worse, and we'll end this by saying I take a lot of ARN cap. It's a supplement for joint health by Thorn Research, and I take a lot of freaking high quality fish oil too. Man, vitamin C is really good for inflammatory, anti-inflammatory. I mean, dude, almost any supplement you can think of actually helps with inflammation.
yeah,
But
man, I
the
take
main ones, anyway.
Jocko's Joint Warfare and their krill oil, and I take their vitamin C too. What one thing real quick, Aaron, because you mentioned work, and I'm sure that you've seen in the news that Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, came out and essentially changed, and I should have the regulation in front of me right now, but it's not been amended yet. It's just that Pete Hegseth sent out a directive to all commands that said that basically, hey, you're going to presume how, I'm trying to remember exactly how he said it, but anyway, going to presume authorization. Like basically, unless you got a good reason, you're going to, you should authorize soldiers to carry not in relation to their duty or concealed carry for all it's worth. Now, one of the things that
Wow.
was missing from that was there was no mention of civilians.
Mm-hmm.
And why I point that out is because, and I don't disagree, excuse me, I disagree with this as well. In the past, this regulation has been bounced around. I've talked about it on here multiple times, but I believe it's 5,100 something. Yeah, don't quote me. I'm gonna put it in the show notes. I should have it to memory by now. Bottom line is, in the past, the last, I should say, Trump administration, they amended it again and said that soldiers and DA civilians back when they worded it that way, or Department of Defense, pardon, could request the authorization to conceal carry on posts not related to their duty. That was never implemented, right?
Hmm.
Even though it was in that regulation. So when I heard Secretary Hegseth say that just recently, I'm like, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
I hope it works out. Now, interestingly enough, I do find it interesting that they kept specifying service members. So I'm just hoping that us Department of War civilians like myself and others aren't going to be excluded from that.
Bro, it seems like anyone that would work on a military base would need the same personal protection as a service member. Did you mean you support the military? You are under military command, are you not?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
You're just not enlisted in the military. You still, for all intents and purposes, you've never left the army. Basically,
No, I
it's
haven't. I mean,
it's
and I've deployed in war zones 8 times as much as I did as a soldier. Of course, I only
how
did.
many can you say how many deployments you've been on? I tried to count it up the other day.
Aaron, let me think about it. So my first deployment as a civilian was to Iraq, 2 to Afghanistan. My next one was back to Iraq. And my next two were a mix between Iraq and Kuwait. And this last time, so I guess it's been 7 times now.
Sounds about right.
It was mixed completely between Kuwait, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and Iraq. So, I mean, I was all over.
Yeah, boy, you got around that last one.
Yeah, and it made the time go by fast. Things are starting to get interesting, to say the least, but nothing like now. Of course, I will say this: one of the most ominous situations I do remember, and this isn't a war story by any stretch, but we haven't been in direct conflict with Iran, except in, minor situations over the years. So when the 12-day war was going on, there was a lot of incoming fire alarms going off. We had to go to bunkers and whatnot, but we would sit there and watch in our bunkers as volleys, you see my hand here, volleys of ballistic missiles just flew over our heads. And when I say over our heads, starting to go up into their low orbit. And then, of course, they were being fired on Israel at that point. But there was always a chance that could happen.
That brings up something I've been thinking about, and we certainly did not plan on talking about this. But as I think it's been on Facebook, dipshits on Facebook, or maybe on the guitar forum I'm at, that people will say, the likelihood of you getting murdered is so low. Okay, so, but you turn that back around on them, but there is, no matter how low it is, it's a possibility, is it not?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Or at a minimum, violently attacked.
Oh yeah. So and that's, and yes, you're beating me to it. Murder is not even close to the only concern.
Mm-hmm. Grave bodily injury, man.
Being maimed for life, being
crippled,
being put in a wheelchair the rest of your life, brain
can't provide
damage
for your family anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So, dude, sometimes that stuff's worse than dying. Depends on where you are in your life, but there's lots of ways to look at that. I'm feeling like I'm rambling, but it doesn't matter how low of a chance you might need to protect yourself.
Well, Aaron, how about a little bit of gear talk, man? Speaking of overseas, this is one thing. Did I ever show you this Grail filter system I have?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, this thing went around the world with me. Sometimes even the desalinated water that's overseas that just either tasted poor or just some of the chemicals in it just bothered me. And so anywhere, in most cases, I was trying to buy bottled water a lot of the time. But if I was not in the capabilities to do that, man, I ran it through this filter. And I'm not going to pull this apart because it actually has some water in it from a work trip I was just on. But I can at least pull this part out here. Let me see how far I can get this out without pouring any water out here.
Why don't you pour that water on your Mac, buddy?
So can you see that black filter at the bottom?
Yeah.
And you've got this titanium reservoir, and you put water in there, and then I'm not going to be able to, from this thing, it's actually really hard. Might be able to get it down, and especially since this, I'll air it out here. But bottom line, Aaron, is, because now there's water in there, it's also a filter. It filters taste, it filters chemicals, and of course all the bad viruses and whatnot. So it does more than, say, like what am I thinking? The ones that I use on camp, and I'm forgetting the Sawyer.
Mm-hmm.
I keep a Sawyer, and I have those in my backpacks too. But this does even more than what a Sawyer would do,
Oh,
and it
wow.
actually makes the water taste good. But I take this on regular trips too, because when I'm in a hotel, I don't. You ever drink hotel water?
Out of the faucet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that stuff that don't taste good. I know I'm being a prima donna, but I just think it's smart to be able to have that. But anyway, I wanted to mention that because this thing went around the world with me
What's it
in my
called? And
rucksack. It's called a Grail, and I forget exactly which
like
model
the
it
Holy
is.
Grail?
Yeah, so it's spelled. Goodness, now it's spelled GR. Gummit. Now my eye. GRA. Is it EL or YL? Good goodness, my eyes all of a sudden turned where I wasn't able to see. GRAYL, Grail.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, right when I was trying to read it, man, my eyes started going dry and I couldn't see it as well. But yeah, man, it's a phenomenal system, man. Obviously, this reservoir even comes with a lid so you can cook in this as well. So it serves a lot of purposes, and it goes in my, if I can call it that. I'm sure people are getting tired of hearing EDC, but you know what? It is what I carry all the time with me. It goes in that backpack. So that's a pretty cool piece of gear. I'll try to get that in the show notes. And mentioning Tenacor, we're always mentioning Tenacor because Tenacor is one of our sponsors. As folks have been hearing me speak about the NRA ARC rifle competition, one of the, in my opinion, silly rules is they don't allow appendix carry for those matches. For what it's worth, that's fine. And I also noticed I was wearing my holster during the competition, but we weren't using pistol in the match, right? But I'm still going to wear my holster. But I was also wearing a couple of mag pouches for ARs, right? And to be frank, as awesome as the Zero Belt is, it's not made to carry all that. It's not intended. I mean, it can, but it's not going to carry it as well. So I jumped on
It's a
Tenacor,
completely
and
different design.
yeah, absolutely. And so I said, well, you know what? If I'm going to have to do strong side carry, then I'm going to get an OWB. And so I got one of the Tenacor arcs. And so this is my Velo 5, right? Everybody knows we love our Velo 5s. And this is dangered up as the awesome, may he rest in peace, James Yeager used to say. So, I mean, this just sounds good, man. And I've worn it around the house. It's weird wearing strong side. I haven't been doing it hardly at all. But another benefit, obviously, of this is it makes it a lot easier teaching both appendix and strong side draws when we're teaching classes. When in the past, having two inside the waistband holsters, it just doesn't work as well. I think you'd agree.
Oh,
It's just
definitely.
too much inside the waistband. It just doesn't work that well. But yeah, so that's another good reason for this. And I also got the Zero heavy belt. So yeah, man, I'm digging this new rig here for when I'm shooting those matches. Oops, dropping stuff here. But yeah, go out to Tenacor, support them, Tenacor.com. I noticed that the crew at Tenacor sent out, and this was earlier today, so you only have a little bit of time. We joke about how we always want Jeff to make holsters, possibly some different colors. Well, you got a short chance to get some Kurtums in, let's see, they had gray, FDE, or what is that, flat dark earth, olive, and multicam. So it's the Kurtum in those. And then they also have the Abdo mag pouches in those same colors, but I think they also had a woodland camo in that. So, and it's only some limited models too. I know that may irritate some folks out there, but I see like 43Xs, Glock 19s, staccatos, several others. I should have been prepared with them, but again, if you want the chance to get some colors in some Kurtums or some Abdo mag pouches, go to tentacore.com and give them your patronage.
Hey, bro. So as you were blabbing on about all that crap, just kidding. I literally ordered my own arcs.
Cool.
The order confirmation just popped up in my email.
Awesome.
Legit. I've wanted one of those for a while. You just inspired me. I just went ahead and got one.
It'll make your dual presentation instruction a little easier.
Bro, I have some classes coming up, and I am for sure going to have to go between strong side and appendix a lot in those classes.
Yeah, I'm about to put on some classes, put on the schedule as well, and I'm probably going to do straight up one on presentation and some close quarter shooting position. I'll probably just make it a 4-hour course, but I'm gonna try to get some rear ends in those seats, if you will, here pretty soon.
Bro, I have a decent outside the waistband holster, but I just didn't have a Tenacore one, and might as well keep representing Jeff as much as possible.
Do
we have the same dang t-shirt on, bro?
Is it the subdued one, the blue one?
Yes.
Bro, this is so fun. Man, we are tactical twinning it up tonight.
Well, bro, let's get into some topics here because we've been blabbing a bit, I think, which is fine too.
As my wife says, we were blabberlanching, which, of course, she got that from the Wrong Missy movie.
Oh, man, that's a good one. Hey, I will say, though, thanks to one of our previous guests, Jason Beeler from the band Saigon Kick, putting me and my wife on the list to go hang out at a concert here in Clearwater, Florida, not last weekend, but the weekend before last. And man, we had a freaking blast getting to hang out with literally one of my favorite musicians on planet Earth and see them play some songs off of, my favorite albums from when I was in my 20s. And I mean, it's like they really worked hard to, give longtime fans a really good time with their amazing music. I got to chat with him about his guitar rig and why he chose specific aspects of it. And, it was fun, man.
Man, I bet you had a blast. And of course you sent me some video and then you also sent me some pictures and some video of one of our very close friends who, I've not seen. And so I've been married to my wife almost 30 years, and I had not seen him maybe 2 years before that. No, a year before that. So
it's counting on all my fingers and toes. It had been at least 30 years since I had seen him. Good shout out to our good buddy Randy. He and I had a blast together.
Well, Aaron, didn't you say that he was saying he doesn't play guitar anymore?
He's a liar.
Dude, you sent me a video of him and if he's still playing, I mean, kicking ass.
Yeah, dude, he's lying through his teeth if he says he doesn't pick up a guitar.
Go ahead.
He's just trying to act like he's humble.
Well, and he is, but
he is.
But at the same time, I was that made me smile. That it brought back memories. Of course, during a period of time when you and I were not playing in bands together, Randy was my guitarist, and he and I and a couple of our other buddies, we played a little bit heavier music than you and I had played together, like a bunch of Pantera stuff and a little bit of original songs. But Yeah, that was a very good memory. Superb guitarist himself, man.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, man. So how much time did you guys get to spend with Jason and his band backstage?
Oh, it was about an hour or so.
Nice.
I'll have to send you pictures of the rest of the band too. But
And
I
Aaron,
mean,
I don't want to bore because most of our listeners are shooters and combatives and tactical dudes, but I am curious what amp was he running?
bro, he was using a what's called a quad cortex modeler for his main
Ah,
sounds. Basically, just dude, guitar sounds these days. Most people these days use a form of a modeler that is just a ridiculous computer that simulates guitar sounds. I mean, down to every nuance you could think of. A lot of gigs I use something similar, but it's what I use is called a Tonex, and I have actually profiled and basically digitally with AI analyzed all my amps, and I have my all my amps in a little computer pedal that's about 4 inches long and an inch and a half wide.
yeah,
It's
you show me
ridiculous.
it's pretty sick, man.
But so
Um,
so
so then he just simply pipes that through the
so that
PA.
goes through the front of house PA, but then he runs it to a power amp to a couple of 412 cabs behind him. He was using a couple of Marshall cabs. He says he uses that for himself and the audience that's close to the stage, because full well if you're close
Hmm.
to the stage, you don't really hear the
No,
MPA much.
nah. That's a awesome throw out to the fans, man. Doing
Yep.
that for them.
Oh,
Yeah,
exactly. He wants everybody to have the stage experience too. And if you just got drums and guitar barely heard through the PA system, yeah, that's not a good experience. So
well,
yeah, I
I
thought
was.
that was cool. He
Oh
he
yeah,
explained he said that he explained that explicitly, that it was for the audience and for him.
cool, very cool.
Hmm.
Well, and, of course, I was bummed I didn't get to be there because I was on a work trip. But I think you did tell him that at some point we'd have to trade some jamming for some pistol lessons or something.
Oh yeah, and I did tell him that you were sad that you apologized for not being able to come, and he's like, well, man, tell him I wish he was here too. So
Cool,
yeah, cool.
awesome. Yeah, excellent memories from that band and the influence they've had on us. Very cool. Well, listen, Aaron. Before I go into our more serious subject, that we might lose a few of our Democrat and we welcome all audience members. We hope that we get quite a bit of Democrats and heck even some left leaning individuals. We want them as audience members because we hope that we can
They need to
either
protect themselves
yeah
too.
yeah. So anyway, with that said, before we go into those subjects, Aaron, do you go to active response training? Greg Ellifrit's site often.
Not often, but I definitely do, especially when you send me an article that of something cool that you found on there. I mean, always thoughtful and written from an actual experience standpoint. I mean, I can hardly ever find anything that I would question about what he's saying. So yeah, he's awesome.
Well, and what I would say too, Aaron, is we talk about this often ourselves. You know, we would hope that individuals will be getting filtered information, right? And we like to, we think about back in the past when we got into firearms, and we were laymen. I mean, you got to admit, man, we went through a lot of misconceptions, and the boxes full of holsters, and um I don't I'd like to think that we got to good information fairly quick. um I think we started to read through a lot of the lines. We also got training fairly early, right? And
Oh yeah.
we were getting training, almost from the beginning. IDPA almost from the beginning. So I guess we skipped a lot of the issues with getting misled or going down rabbit holes that were not useful. But the main reason I wanted to bring up Greg Ellifritz and his website again, active response training, is that he is a filtered, very filtered, um, awesome experience. He's a former police officer, really into combatives. He's obviously a firearms instructor, and so there's really two sides of what he does. He writes his own articles that are always full of wisdom and excellent suggestions or gear reviews or what he's reading. Aaron, I'm an avid reader. I know you are as well. Maybe not as much as I do these days, but Greg's an author. His book Choose Adventure, I believe, is what it's called. Really freaking good. But the other side of his website, or excuse me, of his blog or website, is he aggregates other information. And here, I can't help but think, shout out to may he rest in peace, Rush Limbaugh. And I know that might trigger some people in our audience, but Rush Limbaugh was very impactful on a lot of people and conservatism. And Aaron, do you remember how often he went to the Drudge Report before Matt Drudge fell and hit his head really hard?
No joke, dude.
Yeah, I don't go to there anymore. I haven't went for years, but I mean, what Rush did is he went to the Drudge in many cases because it aggregated, a lot of news articles and information. Well, that's one of the other benefits of Greg's website is that he aggregates. Like I think I read an article he posted one time where he said basically he has a massive RSS feed. There's all these different blogs and websites that feed him articles, and he's always perusing hundreds and hundreds of articles, and he puts them in his weekly knowledge dump that he has. And man, that literally at least a quarter of the ideas or something that I want to talk about on the show, I bet you a quarter of them come from just perusing his site. And I just can't help but think not trying to compare ourselves to the impact of Rush Limbaugh by any stretch. I don't see it that way, but I thought it was a little bit apropos to bring up the Rush Limbaugh Drudge Report. If you want filtered information that's coming from a lot of the best sources in the firearms and combatives industry and community, check out his blog, because I mean it will definitely help you. And if anything, man, when I'm just I don't want to necessarily pick up one of my books and I just want to read some articles, I jump on his website and check them out. I'm always entertained and always, adding ideas to the pool and or reminding me of things I need to be doing that I did in the past. So
that's one of the key aspects of podcasts and those articles and things. Having the information, even listening to our show every now and then, I'll listen back to an old show or listening to the shows that you've done without me. Man, it always reminds me of stuff that I haven't thought about, and it puts it back in the forefront of my mind. And that stuff can save your life someday.
Absolutely.
By listening to a podcast today may put something in your head that saves your life tonight.
Absolutely. And that is not at all overemphasizing. Because it can create or at least connect a former mental map, if not at least a new reminder. You may not have myelination in a certain skill just by hearing something, but you just might have something that enters your mind, even just a reminder of awareness of moving between, your door in your house, between that and your garage door, transitional spaces, even if you're just reminded every now and then, hey, man, make sure you're still looking around in your transitional spaces. I mean, that's just a prime example that all of us know, but then every now and then we can get complacent, and you just need to keep that in your head. You step outside your front door, take a split second to look around before you completely walk out of your threshold, because by golly, you're in a lot better situation if you pick up on something that you observe, and you can go right back in the damn door.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, man. And I absolutely, that's why I wanted to bring up Greg Elford's blog, and I'll try to have that in the show notes. But I mean, you can look it up, activeresponsetraining.net. Give it a whirl. Hillsdale College Courses Podcast. Now, our audience has heard Aaron and I talk about the value of Hillsdale College and their online free classes. Aaron and I have taken multiples of them, and I'm not going to lie, I've started a lot of them that I still need to finish.
Mm-hmm.
And I've brought this up before on here. Charlie Kirk, may he rest in peace. He dropped out of college. I guess he felt. I think I remember him saying he didn't feel that he was going to get anything out of it. But I believe he took 30 or 40. I think they only have around 40. Maybe he took all of them, but they're free online courses. And then he consistently listened to the Hillsdale Dialogues and that podcast, that is. And man, that's how he got as smart on political philosophy and our founding and conservatism that affected millions and millions, was straight off of free Hillsdale online courses. So the beauty
Which is incredible.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's so inspiring. I've probably taken 6 or 7 of them. And I mean, for instance, and I can't remember the exact names of some of them that I took so long ago, but of course, the Constitution 101, the American Heritage classes, World Heritage, economics. I mean, they are phenomenal. And really, you don't have to do the readings, but you should. You're just going to, we know that the adult learning model, you hear something and you read it, you might write something down. That's a third mechanism to helping you, remember things. But if anything, just listen to the lectures, do the quizzes is help, with retaining it. But you will benefit greatly.
Recently, and it's one I need to pick back up, but I think I was about halfway through it before life distracted me with some other things, but a really cool course on the history of the early church.
Oh, nice.
Yep. Oh, it's really
I've seen that on there.
And just interesting things like Emperor Nero setting fire to half of Rome to actually blame it on the Christians.
Oh, wow. I don't recall that. I don't remember that.
Yeah. Things like that. It's like, all the stuff that happened and how the belief in Jesus Christ evolved through that culture. I believe in the way that God had it happen. But I mean, like anything else, Jesus was persecuted. His disciples were persecuted. The early church was persecuted. So it's interesting to see, especially through the different leaders of antiquity, how they treated the church and how some came out and really, really helped the church. So yeah, I would recommend someone take that class too.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'd certainly saw it on there. I had not started it. But of course, we would be remiss if we didn't mention that one of the biggest reasons that we had our early settlements, in the 1619, and I think was it 10 years later in Massachusetts. I should remember the dates. Forgive me, Lee Weems. I don't have those to memory right now. Little shout out to Lee and his history background. But yeah, I believe I have those dates roughly correct. A lot of that was for religious reasons, and I'm not saying that everything was perfect from that movement. Um, of course there were challenges, but
It's people.
yep. Hey,
People are
human
not
nature.
angels. Yeah.
I'm know that I think Madison spoke about that, right?
Yep.
You know, it just the fact remains is that human nature completely factors into the political models that have been used throughout history, and obviously
And
human nature. Yep.
religious movements.
And,
You can't just. A lot of people equate being a believer in Christ with the terrible things that some churches and individuals within the church do things, and especially early church.
well,
But
and honestly, a really good reminder is we're a fairly young country. We're just about to hit 250 years, right? But you know what? We have the oldest constitution in the world.
mhm,
I think that says a lot. Um, is it imperfect? Yes, it can be. But to be honest with you, I think the imperfection is the fact that we've drifted away from a lot of it, right?
oh yeah,
150 agencies that are writing law more so than the legislature, to start
mhm,
there. The legislature is, abrogated or given up its duties and passing it on to all these agencies. But that's another topic for another day. Again, this is a gear and mindset show, right? So this is why we're talking about a lot of this stuff, because then we like to stop and think about these things and help folks, or just remind folks of some areas where they can help their mindset. Well, I guess that was the more jovial. I think we got a little more serious there, but I think it was good. So I guess moving on to the more serious and unfortunately very unfortunate incident was this last weekend was a third attempt on President Trump, and then at this time his staff, right, at the White House correspondence meeting, or correspondence. What? Why am I drawing a blank? What it's called?
White House
Um,
Correspondents' Dinner, I think.
Dinner. Thank you, goodness gracious. I got all these things in my head. I that's funny. Anyway, yes, thank you, Aaron. So again, I think ultimately we have to talk about the rhetoric in our nation. I mean, just to hit on a few of them. And this is more new than some of the other ones I'm going to mention. But Hakeem Jeffries posing in front of a picture with Trump and stating that maximum warfare everywhere, all the time. He's been quoted as in the threat to the American people in this country is extreme MAGA Republicans. That's the threat. That's the problem. That's the crisis that we confront. And I'm going to mention something there. I don't call myself MAGA. I don't think you do either. I'm not opposed to that. I love the people but you know what? I don't agree with everything. We don't support him carte blanche, but by golly, for the most part, I do support him. But that pejorative and that dehumanization with the way that the left
Othering
uses that MAGA term.
as an othering
Yeah, another
mechanism.
one. Yeah, absolutely. Well said. You know, President Biden, Tim Walz, back during the campaign, consistently calling Trump an authoritarian and threat to democracy. Harris calling him an authoritarian and a fascist. Schumer says it, has been said to, has said that he governs, or Trump governs, in an authoritarian manner, a warning of dangerous authoritarian overreach. I can go on and on and on. And I'm not saying that there are times where I dislike some of the things that Trump says. He didn't
Better
say
believe
things
it.
like that.
Yeah.
He, I wish he would be a little more tempered in some of the things that he says, but still, you juxtapose how much of that is bombarded in to our general society. And I saw this um, family therapist on, of course, Fox News. People can complain about that, but he stated about how subliminal messaging is illegal, but that you can bypass the conscious mind and go directly to the subconscious mind by how often you say it, right? You say that over and over and over again. And this would be killer this weekend spoke about how enraged he was every day about the things that this administration has done. And clearly that led him to do what he is doing. And this would-be killer was well educated, an engineer, had a
Yeah.
master's degree, which is also another subject I was going to hit on a little bit here too, here in a second. But here's just a few other situations that I wanted to mention. Floyd Lee Corkins, 2012, tried to shoot up the Family Research Council. The congressional baseball shooting in 2017, where James T. Hodgkinson shot up the Republicans when they were practicing. And, of course, he was a leftist Democrat, Bernie Sanders supporter. And he asked people hey, who's practicing now, Democrats or Republicans? And when he found out it was Republicans, he started shooting, right? I'll mention this. Lee Harvey Oswald was a professed Marxist. He defected to the Soviet Union in the 50s before coming back, before he assassinated President Kennedy. The killing of the United Healthcare CEO,
Oh yeah.
Mangione, he killed him because of deep-rooted hatred for the capitalist system in insurance, right?
And bro, I that you cannot mention that without the fact that you see all the time. I'll see nutcases on Facebook with his face as their background. I
Yep.
mean, celebrating someone that walked up behind someone and murdered them for political reasons.
Yep.
And that's
Absolutely.
okay.
No,
Obviously, say
absolutely,
more after
Aaron.
that in a little bit.
You know, so let's drive that home. I mean, I'm going to mention here in just a minute some statistics as it relates to educated people, right? Both with bachelor's and graduate degrees. There tends to be, and I'll, again, drive this home in a second, there tends to be a higher level of this violent thought the more educated people get, which, you and I can riff off that. But yeah, I mean, you got all these young women, just because I suppose the guy was supposedly handsome. I can't judge on that. I mean, just swooning over him,
Yep.
So then we had the recent attempt on Justice Kavanaugh's life, right? We have now Charlie Kirk was assassinated. He is no longer with us. We've now had 3 attempts on President Trump's life. All of these individuals had some form of radical leftism in their worldview, right? I would be remiss that, of course, there has been radical right wing individuals, but it's such a minute percentage in comparison. I will mention that Minnesota Senator John Hoffman and his wife were killed. It appears for political reasons. They're Democrats. Governor Josh Shapiro, Democrat. Arson, I guess I can't remember all the details. Just know that there was an arson attempt on his home. I would argue that.
It
Yep.
seemed like that was from an anti-Semitic standpoint. Yeah.
You just beat me to it. I totally agree with that. Which is, let's face it, that's more of a leftist attitude or worldview. But bottom line is that it does appear that we have a much higher percentage lately and an uptick of the acceptance and or the actual committing of violent crime for political reasons by leftist individuals. Obviously, I went all the way back to the Kennedy assassination. I just drew the conclusion that, hey, he was a Marxist, Lee Harvey Oswald himself. And Aaron, I want to mention there was a 2025 poll, I forget who put it out, that said that 30% of young individuals, 18 to 29, said that political violence is acceptable. And then today, I saw Matt Thornton of Straight Blast Jim, how much influence we've had from Straight Blast Jim over the years. Of course, Paul Sharp, affiliated with them. So there was a political poll, and so this was from a 2025 American Political Perspective Survey. And in it, they broke down between high school diploma or less, bachelor's degrees, some college, and graduate or professional. You can probably guess how this ranked out, but let's say, for instance, if you are protesting something unjust, is it reasonable to damage property? Well, 18% of high school diplomas or less. I find this interesting. 13% of some college and an associate's degree. So they're the lowest in both of these instances. Bachelor's degree, 19%. And a whopping 36% with graduate or professional degrees that thought that when you're protesting, you can damage private property. And then this is the big kicker. Violence is often necessary to create social change. 23% high school diploma or less. And then it dips down to some college and or associate's degree, 20%, 26% of bachelor's degree, and 40% in graduate or professional. So, I mean, I think there's a correlation with one main aspect of all that, and that's all the radical leftists in academia that are teaching these individuals. What do you think about that? I went on for a long time there, and I want your thoughts.
Bro, I think to deny that that leftism is a major driver of how things are ran and taught within this nation's universities. If you deny that, you either it's confirmation bias that they teach what you believe, so it's correct, or you deny it, or just either way, it is undeniable. Okay. So, and that leads to also, Eric, that these more educated people that have these more radicalized leftist views, since they correlate it with being educated, they correlate not having those attitudes and not having that worldview as being ignorant and uneducated. So, that's one aspect that's irritating to me. But,
well, Aaron, if I can add to that, is I also believe that in their mind, because they believe they are more educated than the masses, that also enables their justification even further. Yeah. Right. And, how often, Aaron, is it that you see when some conservative is, honestly, in some cases, foolishly arguing with a leftist online, where this person doesn't know that conservative from Adam, but yet at some point, because their argument doesn't hold much water, they start to ask what their education level is, or point to that you probably didn't even graduate from college, this, that, and the other. And it's that elitism, I think, that does really, it contributes to their biases, and they believe that they're right. I'll also add, I just think that there is a connection to a turning away from biblical principles too, or some form of uh, morality or mores that that ground you in what your moral code or your moral compass is.
Well, the higher you consider your education without any mooring, like you said, to morality and something higher than yourself, the more hubris you're going to exhibit. I mean, that's just a fact, and unfortunately, on the other hand, a lot of the people, our mentors, and the people that we love to learn from, man, the more they know, the more they are humble.
Absolutely.
It's just, yeah, it's definitely a world unto itself, academia, where everybody's patting themselves on the back um, for having these refined, untested, but um, theoretical views that that we've got evidence from this paper that says this, and we've got evidence from this one, it's peer reviewed, etc. But how often are scientific papers manipulated and have major flaws in how the studies were done, but yet, of course, we have confirmation bias, you and I, and anyone from our point of view, but you have to be intelligent enough to look back and say, okay, this is what this is telling me. Is it right? When you're coming to a scientific, or if you're trying to come to a factual foundation in some concept or some cause and effect relationship, you really shouldn't be just trying to confirm what you believe. You should
Right.
be trying to disprove what you believe.
Absolutely.
And if you can't disprove what you believe, you're probably right.
Yep.
So what I often see is just them proving to themselves that they're right by specific studies, and no matter if they've delved into the statistical sampling, the way the questions were worded, if it was double blind. I know that doesn't necessarily come down to concept in social studies, but you know what I'm saying. What were the methods to come to the conclusion to prove the hypothesis in a scientific paper?
Well, and to add to that, Aaron, we are not against higher education. Aaron, you have a degree. I don't have a completed degree. Frankly, when I joined the Army, and prior to it, I took, a lot of college courses that helped me with what I would claim is the practical side of education. And when I was in the Army, I took a lot of engineering classes on the electronics side. Of course, before that, I took a lot of math and science. I just didn't feel the need to finish my degree.
Yeah.
I just didn't,
Well,
and yep, go ahead.
on that point, when you were talking about going into professional degrees, I think I know what you're talking about. In that instance, would be certifications, um, you know, Juris Doctorates, passing the bar exam, etc. So I've got a bachelor's degree in business administration with a focus on accounting, and I am a certified management accountant. I can tell you, getting that certification was the most difficult thing I've ever done. Ridiculously rigorous to take those exams. I passed the first three exams the first try. The final exam, it took me three times to pass it.
I
I
remember
hadn't
you
failed.
going through that.
I hadn't failed a test ever. So, but I'm saying that my education also led me to believe in free market concepts and bare minimum understanding economics the way I do, understanding that how impersonal a freer market, the ordering mechanism of a market can be, that people making decisions about how they're going to purchase things takes in a single person, takes in unknowable variables in their mind, and they're only thinking about three or four of them, but they're making they're making that single purchase decision based on innumerable amounts of data. And you put that all together with millions of people making decisions, you literally get to something that approaches equilibrium and an ordering mechanism. So I just didn't learn that from, listening to Rush Limbaugh and other political commentators. I learned it through a pretty deep education in economics itself. So and then you'll have people from what's called the Keynesian side, for John Maynard Keynes. But then there's what a lot of us believe is from the Austrian School of Economics, von Mises and F.A. Hayek. All of that just makes complete sense. But Keynesian is definitely believing in government having much more of a involvement with economics. But I did not intend on going off on all that either, bro. But
well, I go ahead.
Just saying that there are those of us that are fairly well educated that came to different conclusions than they did either. So, what is the sociological difference?
Well, and I think that is the point, or one of the points I was about to make is I think it really depends on where you're going in your education. Is it a professional job? Is it a engineering? Is it like, in your instance, in accounting? I am definitely leaning towards the fact that a large percentage of higher education, there's no bang for the buck.
Nope.
I think people are wasting a lot of damn money. Of course, I went if you can argue, I went the trades route, to join in the Army, and again, I've, of course, taken a lot of college classes in the engineering side.
Your job is highly technical,
yep.
though.
Yeah, and I've had a lot of very, very hard courses and certifications myself in my fields. But yeah, that's not at all arguing just for my side of education versus yours or others. I just think we're at a place within our country and in time where people have options. I love Micro, classically educated himself, and now he's pushing people to go into the trades. I think I'm not saying everybody needs to do it. What I'm saying is there's a lot of individuals
A lot of people
that would
that
do well.
should.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and we can probably move on from this, but I believe that college education costs have had a solid 1,000% inflation rate over so many years.
And when did that happen though? It happened when the federal government took the bulk of the financing over, and funding. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No,
I
no,
wasn't
no.
at all trying to.
And
But
I'm
that
not
was a
even
big
trying to
aspect of it.
explore. I'm not even trying to explore a reason and or put any blame. It's just when you've
That's a
got a
fact.
fact where you've got this humongous inflation, 100 times more than overall CPI inflation. There's something odd going there, and and it starts dipping into, like you said, where, man, become a plumber, go into HVAC, become a
Electrician.
firefighter, electrician. We're not just, it is a time when people really do need to start looking at that stuff, because if you spend $200,000 getting an education, and you can fairly easily, depending on what that degree is, and then pay it off, and the opportunity cost of investing that $200,000 starting out when you're 25 years old until you retire versus the lower salary that you're going to get from spending that $200,000. Again, it may not end up being over your entire career the right financial path.
Yep, absolutely. If anything, man, it's just, I think it's wise for people to consider that. And some people just don't do well in school, or they just tired of it, but it's not saying that they aren't intelligent. There's a lot of, and I know some super smart people, some of the smartest people I ever ran into, at least in my early days. And of course, I've run into a hell of a lot more smarter people, but some of the smartest people I met prior to joining the Army, Aaron. Remember when I worked at Sunoco, when I worked at Sun Oil, I met some smart dudes that worked in like maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they had mechanical and electrical type backgrounds. Those dudes were smart as heck. I can go down the list, and those guys didn't have formal educations. It's a lot to be said by a made man, that decide to get an education on their own too. So,
oh yeah.
Well, Aaron, I think we're heading towards the end of the time where we wanted to start closing this out. I think we did have one more story that I think is pretty darn concerning. Did you hear about these 15 agricultural drones in New Jersey that were stolen?
Mm-hmm. That can carry payloads of chemicals.
Yeah, let me see if this. I didn't have the article pulled up, and I wasn't planning on reading it, but I'm trying to see in here. I mean, it quite an amount of fluids, man. 31 gallons.
Whoa.
31 gallons carried, and they're fairly large drones. And why would 15 of those things be stolen? That we don't know for certain. Maybe it was
just
jackasses.
Someone wanting to spray pesticides on their crop and didn't want to pay for drones. But
yeah, or nerds wanting these large drones. I don't know, but I'd say there's a high possibility that it's for nefarious reasons. And man, chemical warfare with 31 gallons worth of spray over a population. I think it's a good time to pray that individuals are protected from that. But that's definitely scary, man.
And that was in New Jersey, right?
Yes. And, I didn't intend to read the article per se. But I mean, let me go into just a little bit of it. But this was from New Jersey, 101.5. So obviously one of their radio stations. New Jersey could be in for another drone scare after over a dozen used for family farming were stolen. Recent thefts come after hundreds of drones were flying over New Jersey for several months. This is remember when that was some freaky stuff. Trying to figure out what was going on there. But website High Stack reported that 15 crop spraying drones were stolen in March from a warehouse in Harrison using forged documents, right? The GPS guided drones can each spread 31 gallons of liquid over 15 acres in 8 minutes. A former FBI agent told the publication that the FBI is freaked out for good reason, end quote, because in the wrong hands, it could prove to be deadly. And Aaron, I can't help but think about some of the novels in the past that I've read. Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six. It was about the use of and spread of biological weapons, an aerosol type weapon. That's serious business, man. So hopefully they're found and any plot, if a possible plot, is caught, man. Yeah, that was certainly something that caught my attention. So, well, Aaron, do you have anything else to add? I think we covered a lot tonight. We've blabberlanched on for quite some time.
All I want to say is, I guess on a interesting note, that the U.S. has started using some drones, kind of, taking the lead from the Iranians and Yugoslavia. Ukraine. Pardon me.
Mm-hmm.
Using drones as weapons. We're starting to use some of those built in Arizona, and they run around $35,000 for a one-way precision drone, as opposed to a $2 million missile. I can't spit it out, but it's just funny the way things have changed. It's like, okay, they're going to send cheap bombs across our, across to try and hit us. Why don't we do the same thing? This is a pretty good, pretty good route to go.
Oh, absolutely, man. And using a $4 million Patriot missile to shoot down a $20,000 to $30,000 Shahed drone, that's a poor cost comparison.
Sure
for
is.
certain.
And so I guess the ones that we are procuring are called the Lucas drone, and it can carry up to 18 kilograms of explosives. So that
which is a decent amount for the right target, for certain.
Yeah, I found that interesting.
Well, drone warfare is absolutely the way of the future, and I'm not gonna lie, man. Being a former soldier and being on some of these FOBs and front lines, man, drone warfare is scary, man.
Yeah, I'm not going to go into it, but I did see some of the measures they took on those bases, knowing that drones were a threat, to try and mitigate that. So yeah, if they have some of the measures that they had over there, of course it's a serious issue that they had to get ahead of.
Well, and it's pretty open source. I will say this: when I was in Jordan at Tower 22 this last deployment, for a short period of time, which folks can look that up. That was the site of a drone attack from some insurgents over in Syria, where unfortunately a couple soldiers lost their lives and more injured. Yeah, man, they had draped mesh over the whole area, And I mean, they got that from in Ukraine, draping
Okay.
just mesh everywhere. I mean, it's low tech but highly effective. But I mean, we are definitely in a race to build, and we do have much greater capabilities now as anti UAS or drone capabilities. I will say that everybody's been playing some catch up.
Yeah.
These cheap first person view drones, which I didn't, even though I saved an article or a video about some cheap drones, and I did a segment on drones a while back, and I haven't committed to it yet because frankly, I didn't really want to buy Chinese drones, man.
Yeah.
It's I guess I'm to the point where if I want to at least get into it on the at this juncture, I might not have a choice. I mean, there's no U.S. companies that are competing with that, so
Yeah.
I'm hoping that changes. But well, yeah, man, thanks for bringing that article up, bro. Appreciate that. I know we were supposed to talk about it. Thank you. Well, man, thanks for hanging out with me. It's always awesome to hang with you. There are some special guests coming up soon that you might want to come hang out with. I'll keep you posted.
Oh man, I know some of them you're talking about. Yeah, let me know, brother. And thanks for asking me to come on. It was a fun opportunity. I had the time to do it, so I wasn't going to miss it.
All right, bro. Love you, man.
Love you too. Have a good evening.
Take care.